4 years ago, I wrote an essay during the primary and caucus season after New Hampshire, depicting and predicting exactly what would happen in the Republican field. The video is linked to this particular channel. And I'll just have to take my word for it that I wrote it in 2008, but I assure you I did. I'm not the zombie media, so there's no point in me lying. We're less than 5 hours away from the first ballots being cast in New Hampshire. And this afternoon I wrote another essay depicting exactly what's going to happen in the following caucuses and primaries in New Hampshire, Florida, South Carolina. If I may. As we wait with bated breath for the New Hampshire version 2012, we see the dirty tricks come in a daily wave in the week following the Iowa debacle. Caucus, excuse me. Whether it's the China John video that through Google Analytics proves was directly linked to John One Vote Huntsman's campaign, or the obfuscation by CBS News, which completely removed Congressman Paul from its polling results, the dirty tricks are compounding. CBS's move led to a tidal wave of phone calls from supporters, and CBS's response to replace the video link to the fraudulent news coverage with a video of a tour of CBS's new facility. This kind of obfuscation is outlandish and insulting not only to the good doctor, but to the American people as a whole. We sit here now, less than 5 hours away from the first ballots being cast. And it's time for me, just as I did in 2008, to predict the outcome of not only New Hampshire, but Florida and South Carolina as well. John Huntsman will come in second in New Hampshire, behind Mitt Romney. The vote again to be stolen by fraud and, of course, the debulked voting machines. The propaganda has been thick, with talks of 40% undecided voters, the removal of Dr. Paul from nearly all coverage in the old media, and the talking point being spread throughout the old media that potential voters are lying to pollsters. Of course they are, because according to most polls, Romney is sliding, while Ron Paul is up 8% since Iowa, far ahead from the third-place candidate. An aggregate of polling from Real Clear Politics shows the numbers, combining the six of the largest polls. And these numbers bear out as follows. Mitt Romney at 39%, Ron Paul at 20%, I'm rounding up. John Huntsman at 12%, Rick Santorum at 12%, Newt Gingrich at 10%, pardon me. My math teacher would be angry for me not rounding properly. And Governor Rick Perry at a resounding 1%. Not a single poll shows Huntsman higher than Ron Paul, but yet, as I stated previously, Ron Paul will not finish in second, nor third. He will finish in fourth place. Hide and watch, my friends, as the zombie media speaks of Paul's supporters. A, just not showing up to vote. B, kids just protesting and rabble-rousing. And then finally C, it's time for him to drop out of the race. Then it's on to South Carolina, which will be just 11 days later. Despite all the negatives against Rick Santorum, as well as the lack of funding and organization, he will win South Carolina. With claims of the evangelical vote not wanting to vote for a Mormon, and the trumpeting the return of the Christian conservative, Gingrich will finish second, due mostly to the complete whitewashing of his hand-in-hand collusion with President Clinton and his subservient GOP House and Senate in the 90s, bringing us NAFTA and repealing Glass-Steagall. Then it's on to Florida. Florida, again only 10 days after South Carolina, will be won by Newt Gingrich. Florida is as corrupt a state as it gets when it comes to their elections. Just ask Al Gore about that. Despite Gingrich being complicit in the outsourcing of jobs, thanks to NAFTA, the state will be hand-delivered to the amphibian, leaving the constitutionalist candidate again without a win. Never mind the polls, which show him rising with every passing day. He doesn't matter. Never mind the fact that he receives more donations from the military than all other GOP candidates combined. He's anti-military. The media would have you believe he doesn't matter, and that's why they lie about him, pull dirty tricks on him, on a now daily basis, no, he will not be president. They have commanded. So what would we be left with? A wholly compromised Newt Gingrich who, to borrow an analogy from the comedian Eddie Murphy, can't speak without a bone popping out of his mouth. Rick Santorum, a man whose support is completely media-driven and with significant help from Karl Rove, the grand manipulator in Iowa. Finally, Mitt Romney, who besides being a stooge whose campaign is almost entirely funded by the big banks, is a Mormon. Bigotry against Mormons is widespread across the country, due mostly to ignorance and, frankly, South Park. America will not put a Mormon in office, period. Folks, it's pretty obvious what is going on. After viewing this video, I urge you to look up President Eisenhower's farewell address from 1961, and then realize our nation has been hijacked from stem to stern by globalists and the military-industrial complex. Their business is conquest, their business is war, and their business is death. These are the people Dwight Eisenhower was speaking of. Only one candidate is against the empire building, the globalism, and for the real definition of national defense, which is securing our borders and protecting these United States. Does that answer the questions as to why Ron Paul is being marginalized, lied about, called a racist and an anti-Semite? Because he is against the business of death and loves the founding principles of this once great nation? Restoration of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is paramount to getting this nation back on track. If you have children under the age of 12 years old, they've known nothing but a nation at war. A war with Iran, which Dr. Paul is firmly against, will bring back the draft and will begin World War III. Look at your children if you have them and look into their eyes and ask yourself, is that the future you want for them? Do you want to feed your children to the war machine for nothing more than the profits of unelected corporate puppet masters? There's only one answer if you love your children and want to end the empire-building nation we have become. If you want a future for your children of peace and of love. The answer is Ron Paul. A vote for liberty and a vote for freedom. And a vote for a future of peace for your children. I was 100% correct in my predictions in 2008. I will be correct again, unfortunately. Just today, this morning, actually, Congressman Paul was at a meet and greet at a restaurant in New Hampshire, greeted by a throng of reporters you would see with the arrival of Beyonce and Jay-Z. I've watched coverage of every political race going back to 1988. I'm 38 years old. That's 24 years. I've never seen a throng like this so early in a campaign. Usually the press doesn't show up in those numbers until both sides have been decided and who's going to run as both the Democrat or the Republican. The two wings of that dragon that's taken over our great nation. No, this throng was there to keep Congressman Paul from meeting the people, from having a last chance opportunity that everyone else was granted, to press the flesh, as it were, to shake hands and kiss babies, the old-fashioned way. The only reporter I recognized, well, there were two, it was Bret Baier and Luke Rudkowski from We Are Change. I knew immediately upon seeing this that the press coverage this evening would be, if Ron Paul can't handle the press in this fashion as a candidate, what's he going to do as a president? And it looks like he just can't handle the pressure. Folks, there was a man with a rubber boot on his head and a bullhorn claiming to be the media who was standing in front of Congressman Paul's SUV trying to block his path. This is obviously a setup sent out by, unfortunately, both sides of the political aisle to make this man look bad, make him look like he couldn't handle the pressure of the media, to keep him from the people.